Hello, evening everyone. My name is Joy and my fashion name is MSJ Fashion World. So on today's topic, I promised and I said every Wednesday I'll be coming on this live show to talk about things about fashion, fashion designing, how to get better, businesses to invest in fashion as a fashion designer, um things about fashion designer. Okay, so on today's topic, um well, my name, as I said earlier, my name is Joy, but my fashion name is MSG Fashion World. So if you're just coming across my face for the first time, you're welcome, and I'm glad you're here because we are going to be learning a lot and talking about things a lot. Okay, so here, uh today's topic is all about do you prefer fashion school to roadside tailor? What is your take on that as a fashion designer or as a beginner who wants to learn? Do you What is your stake? What do you think is better? So that is what we are going to be talking about. So the first on my list, let me first of all talk about fashion school and what it entails. So fashion school is all about pattern drafting, fashion illustration and design principles, garment construction and theory, fabric knowledge, certificate and credibility, structured learning environment, right? So these are things about fashion designers. What are their pros? What are the things that they do in a fashion house, which is the advantage? If you want to know about the pros, is the advantage. So the advantage of learning in a fashion house is organized curriculum. We have a broader fashion knowledge, exposure to different styles. So when we are talking about that fashion house, these are the things that you are going to be enjoying. These are the advantage you're going to be enjoying. Please, if you are just coming across, please say hi on the comment section. So as I said before, my name is Joy and my brand name is MSG World. So today's topic is about what are the difference between, do you prefer going to a fashion school or a roadside tailor? And I said earlier, what is a fashion school? Fashion school entails pattern drafting, fashion illustration, design principle, garment construction theory, fabric knowledge, certificate and credibility, structured learning environment. And what are the advantage of learning in a fashion house is organized curriculum, broader fashion knowledge, exposure to different styles. These are the advantage of a fashion school. So then, what are the disadvantage too? Disadvantage of learning in a fashion house is expensive. Sometimes it's too theoretical. So as a beginner, if you feel you want to learn in a fashion school, these are the things you need to learn, or you need to know about the disadvantage of learning in a fashion school, which entails it's expensive. Number one, to learn in a fashion school, they're all expensive. Sometimes they are too theoretical, like they deal with theory more than practical, or like a roadside. Okay, so and also not every school fashion focus on sewing. That is the thing about fashion school. Not every fashion school focus on sewing. So most times they focus on the theoretical aspect, which is maybe all this pattern illustration, this is fashion illustration, pattern drafting. Yes, it's part of it. But when we are talking about things that will make you stand out and make you have confidence as a fashion designer, you have to know these things, that sewing not every knowing the practical aspects of fashion designing is very, very important. So here I'm still going to be talking about the roadside. So to get to the roadside is they are always cutting hand, like cutting the clothes on instantly. Hi, you're welcome. They're always cutting cloth on fabric, speed and practical experience, class handling. Unlike a fashion school, you have to bring your fabric so that you can learn with it. But in a roadside, you have to use a client dress or client fabric to work with. Hi, you're welcome. So if you're just coming across this, these are the difference, and I want us to know about this together so that we can able to know this different and the cons, the advantage and the disadvantage about these two sides. So I'm not really siding anyone. I'm not saying this fashion school is bad and a roadside um fashion is also bad. I'm just trying to bring a way so that we can know the disadvantage, the advantage of learning and disadvantage of learning in both fashion school and the roadside. So as I said earlier, if you're learning in a fashion school entails you have to learn fashion illustration, pattern drafting, garment construction, the theory aspect, fabric knowledge. You have to know different type of fabric. You have to have knowledge of different type of fabric. Okay, so if you want to go into fashion and you feel these are the things you need to know, these are the things. Thank you very much. So these are the things you need to know. You need to know about the fashion school and the roadside. So another disadvantage about fashion school is that most fashion schools are expensive. So with that alone, it can hinder you of, like, you can feel, oh, I want to go to a fashion school, and because you cannot afford it at that time, you cannot get it. Yes, you can get it because they are roadside. It's not must that you have to start in a fashion school if you're not capital expensive, if you don't have that capital to go to a fashion school. There are roadside tailors that are good. Okay, so one of the disadvantage of learning in a roadside is poor and no pattern drafting. There are always poor way of drafting or cutting of fabric, because normally there are some styles that are very complicated. If you want to jump on sewing just like that, you might have to make mistake while cutting. So to get that, that's the disadvantage of working or learning in a roadside tailor. Okay, so if you have the mindset you want to learn, you also have the ability. And another way you can skill from learning or from not doing that in a roadside, you have to always bring your fabric. You have to always bring your fabric along with you, a new fabric, so that you can work with it. You can know how to do things in a different way. That is what you different from every other beginners around you, or apprentice. That's what they call it apprentice. So if you're in a fashion school, they call you student, but if you're in a roadside, they call you apprentice. Okay, so if you have the mindset of you want to start fashion, you want to learn fashion designing, these things are the things you need to consider. Is if you are to learn in a fashion school, you have to consider the disadvantage, which is expensive, but the advantage is more. Yes, also in a roadside, there are also advantage of in a roadside is that you learn more practical you more practical than in a fashion. Okay, so that is how we came about this topic. So if you are having confusion on what should I go for, how should I go for this? Consider all these things, all this advantage and disadvantage too. So when you're trying this, when you're wanting to know about this too, you have to consider all this before before you start learning, whether from a roadside or a fashion designer or a road or a fashion school rather. Okay, so one thing as a beginner that you need to know, I'm sorry, I'm reading, I jot out a point. I jot out points that I will talk about so that you guys should know about it. I can't boldly remember everything. So that's why I jot out some points so that you guys can get what I'm trying to say. So what is best as a beginner when you want to learn fashion designer? What is best as a beginner? So here we have your learning style. So when you to consider when you want to learn as a beginner, you have to consider your learning style. What style is better for you? Is it learning from a roadside because it gives you more experience? It gives you, at least to learn from a roadside, you to take you like 1 month or 2 months before you can start peddling a machine. That is the difference. But when you're in a fashion school, it will have to take you almost immediately to start peddling your machine. But when you're in a roadside tailor, it will take you up to 1 month or 2 months before you start matching the machine and you start sewing. Before you even start sewing, you have to know some basics about fashion. You have to know some basics, how to cut, how to do this.